cruising by, there's a local Subaru dealer over there, and they actually have a 2022 WRX, but I believe it's Lapis. It's a dark blue color. I don't know if they changed over the color name, but I wanted to go check it out, so I don't know. Hopefully I don't get bothered by the salesman. I'm literally just want to see it real quick, and hopefully I can park next to it just to see the difference, but let's go check it out. Alright guys, here it is. It's actually called Sapphire Blue. Very, very similar to Lapis. I don't know what changed over, but you can see Lapis right here. This is $38,949. This is a limited. Pretty nice, but yeah, I wonder how much different it is than Lapis on my color. Yeah, I prefer mine much more, but very similar color. You guys can kind of see. I'm trying to find out the difference in terms of what colors are in it, but looks very, very similar. I think Lapis is a little bit more purple, whereas Sapphire is a little bit more, has a little bit more blue in it. And here's a Sapphire up close. Looks a little bit more blue, whereas Lapis has a little bit more purple. Still want to drive one just to feel it. I don't think I would buy one, but I still want to drive it. What's up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video. Since I get so many questions about what's on the car, what modifications are done, I like to do these mod overview series where I go over the entire car, whether it's interior, exterior, wheels, performance, that kind of stuff. So it's a good way to kind of break it down, let people watch those videos, understand just what was done to the car in that aspect, and get a good idea of everything that was done. What I prefer to do is just do update videos based on a certain part of the car. If there was any changes, recently we just did the wheels since we changed over the wheels. There's been quite a few performance changes to this car. So in this video, I want to go over everything performance related, what has changed and what we're at currently. Just a minor update. I adjusted the Veris engineering diffuser in the rear. A lot of people were asking me since the last video I did the titanium works hardware on it. I did remove the side fins and I wanted to show you an exterior shot real quick. I think it looks much better without that side fin. It makes the back end look way more even, and I'm really happy that I decided to take that off. It's kind of hard to see, but so if you notice, there's the fins under the diffuser here. There used to be one here that goes all the way down. It kind of looked a little off for me, especially from the side, but now it's kind of nice and even. It flows really nicely, and I'm really happy I decided to take those off. It's super easy to put back on if I really wanted to. All you do is remove the bolts, slide the fin in between the diffuser and the little side spats there, and you're good to go. But I'm really, really happy with that decision. I think it looks much cleaner without those side fins. All right, so let's start going over all the performance-oriented parts on the car, what it makes, and just where the current state is. Now, before my previous video update that I did, it was stage 3 technically, which is all the fueling and all that. It made 340 horsepower with 352 foot-pounds of torque at 18 PSI on 93 octane. So let's go over everything that is done to the car, performance oriented. Some of this stuff is reliability mods, but overall it helps the car perform, it helps it stay nice and healthy, so I'm going to go over them real quick as well. So I'm going to start in the back and work my way forward. I figure that's the easiest way to do it. Out back we have a Ets Extreme Cat-Back. It is a resonated mid-pipe with no mufflers, and this is the blue tip version. Now if we make our way down, the second part of the exhaust is a Grimspeed limited catted downpipe. Not going to be able to really see it in the engine bay, but it is underneath the Grimspeed turbo heat shield there. And right next to the downpipe, we have the IAG Street V3 AOS. Right on top here is the Grimspeed top mount intercooler with the thermal coating. I also have all the couplers, so the throttle body coupler as well as the Y pipe hoses and couplers underneath. Attached to the Grimsby top mount intercooler, I am running a Cobb LF bypass valve with Titanium Works hardware. Down there in the jungle of wires is a Get a Dom cylinder 4 cooling mod. Right here on the left, hanging out on the side of the Perrin cover, is a Grimspeed electronic boost control solenoid. Right up front is probably the best part and the best looking piece in the engine bay. This is the Cobb Redline carbon fiber intake. Right next to the intake, we have the Koyo-Rad radiator. Attached with an RK titanium coolant pipe here, which is very, very nice. Then moving over to the right of the car, we have the Cobb coolant overflow tank. Now down below, you can see the pretty white pipes there. That is the Killer Bee Holy equal length headers, and they are coated in Swain Tech. So in terms of fueling, I upgraded the entire fueling system. I went with the Cobb fuel kit, so that includes the fuel rails, injectors, which are the 1050X, fuel lines, fuel regulator, as well as an AEM 340 fuel pump. Now at the bottom of the motor is something for reliability. I changed over to the Killer Bee oil pan kit, which includes the oil pan, the oil pickup tube, as well as the baffle. It holds 6 quarts of oil instead of the 5, so I definitely recommend doing that if you're looking to go for more power. Now the main reason why I'm doing this update video is because of the next couple of modifications. This is what changed it dramatically in terms of power and parts. You're not going to be able to see it since it's down in the engine bay underneath kind of, but I recently just changed over to external wastegate, PLM turbo uppipe with the 44mm tile wastegate, and also has the dump tube as well. Last but not least, the best thing that I recently just changed is actually right here. You can only see the oil feed line right there, but down there underneath the Grimsby turbo heat shield is a Blausch 1.5 XDR turbo. And of course, after all those changes, I got a retune on the Cobb access port at my shop. Now with all those modifications and the recent changes with the turbo uppipe, the wastegate, and the turbo, it made 413 horsepower and 358 foot-pounds of torque at 18 PSI on 93. Now I know a lot of you are going to be asking 2 questions, one of which is your internal stock? Did you build the motor? Yes, I have not changed the motor. It is completely stock. This is a 2017, so it's, I guess, the older generation EJ. It's not the Type RA block, which I'm fine with. What kills these motors and what makes them have issues is torque. Torque is when you really run into issues with this car. It's that initial hit, that initial power that really makes these EJs struggle. My main goal when changing over the power plant, in terms of the turbo and everything and getting a retune, was to stay exactly where I was. So I stayed at the 18 PSI. I did not change the boost pressure, but I made a little bit more power, but it's also working a little bit less. So my torque only went up by 6. Now, obviously there's way more room for improvement, but we wanted to keep it nice and conservative, nice and low. Obviously I can probably shoot for around 400 torque with this setup and be totally fine, but I want to stay conservative. I wanted to try to be as reliable as possible. So we kept that torque level kind of right where it was. And the horsepower obviously made a pretty decent jump. We went from 340 to 413. The way that I drive this car, I'm not tracking it. I'm not beating on it. I don't go to the drag strip, so it doesn't really see the high RPM range for a long extended period of times. I'm just going out, having fun on some back roads, and that's about it. I have too much mechanical sympathy to really beat on this car too hard, so I'm really not concerned overall. Now, do I plan on actually building the motor? Yes, at some point I would love to do that. I'd love to go to an IAG 2.5 and just do a full build, possibly go rotated. We will see, but that is in the future. But for right now, the car drives beautifully. It drives amazing. There's a lot of low-end power, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted something that I can drive on the streets and not have to worry about winding the car out. And this setup is exactly what I was looking for. It is so perfect. I absolutely love driving this car. It is a ton of fun, and it is pretty darn quick. I understand it's not 700, 800 horsepower like most of these cars on YouTube, but honestly, I'm more about balance than horsepower. I'd rather have a car that's really fun to drive, that I can really wind out, instead of having to go onto a highway and hit, triple-digit speeds to really feel what I paid for. And the last thing I wanted to go over really quick is, why did I change out the turbo? You were making good power on the stock turbo. Why did you change everything up? Well, The main reason is because I wanted something that was going to make similar power to what it was prior, but be able to work less. Having components and mods working less, but being able to provide similar power is really important. And the reason for that is because it creates less heat. Less heat in the EJ motor is very, very important. So being able to make similar power with the components working less hard is definitely the way I like to go. I like to overbuild my cars. I like to put things on the car that still leave a lot of headroom that, you know, if I ever wanted to turn it up in the future, I certainly can. But also I want to be able to have something that is not struggling. It's not at the top end. With the stock turbo setup that I was running, it was definitely kind of at the peak. You know, I really didn't have much more. It was really working hard at the top end when I was really getting on it, and it was creating a lot of heat, and I really didn't want that. So going over to the Blausch 1.5 is a perfect choice to get something that is very daily drivable, still low end power, and still spools up actually a little bit sooner than stock. So the setup is absolutely amazing. I love the approach I went with it. Huge shout out to everybody that recommended the Blausch 1.5 to me. I was going to go with an FP or do something else, but everyone was saying a Blausch 1.5. And I could not be happier. Now, as I mentioned, there's still a lot left in the tank. I can have certainly gone to flex fuel and gone to E85, but for what I'm using this car for, and also for me geographically, E-stations are just not around me. They're over an hour away. The two ones that are somewhat nearby, it's over an hour each way, which is not that bad considering this is not a daily driver and I wouldn't need to get it every single week. But still, that is just kind of a nuisance for me. I know if I ever end up building the motor that I will definitely go to a flex setup, or at least for an E85 setup. But for right now, 93, I get 0 knock. Everything is absolutely amazing. The dam stays at 1. I have no issues, and I really don't plan on changing it up at this point. But going to flex, building the motor, doing that stuff kind of leaves the door open for improvement in the future. But for right now, this power level for the street and what I use this car for is absolutely perfect. So there you go, guys. There is the update. I believe I hit everything in terms of performance, in terms of power. I may have missed a couple things here and there, but for the most part, I hit all the major components, everything that makes up the power to make it feel the way that it does. Obviously, you can categorize performance into suspension and all that stuff, but I just wanted to focus on the actual power plant, what makes it 413 horsepower and 358 foot-pounds of torque. So if you guys have any questions at all about anything in terms of performance oriented on the car, please let me know in the comments below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.